A very popular English lesson I've noticed is on the terrible dangers of the common word very. You should avoid using the word very too much in your English conversations, they say. Lions and tigers and bears and very, oh my, Toto, the horror. The lessons that follow are so far afield of reality, I shudder and then, well, I get angry. While these lessons may reflect how a native speaker might go about a formal writing project, they do not reflect colloquial spoken English very well at all. Very is most often used as an adverb in English where it modifies an adjective. It means to a high degree. So to be very angry is to have a high degree of anger, a lot of anger. In other words, to be furious, or maybe even to be enraged. However, will a native speaker avoid saying, "I'm very angry," and instead say, "I'm furious"? No, they will not avoid saying very. Now, it's possible they may say, "I'm furious at you," but they also might just say, "I'm very angry." However, despite what certain teachers may be telling you, the word furious is not common. It's not even in the top 3,000 spoken words in English. Folks, that's around 94% of spoken English. Very, however, certainly is on the list. It's in the top 1,000 most common English words. If you avoid using the most common words in English because they're used too much, how does that help you sound like a more fluent English speaker? The answer is, it doesn't. So instead of replacing very angry with some other word like furious, a native speaker might use one of several colloquial variations to replace the word very or an English idiom or expression. Here are some examples. I am so angry at you. I am so pissed off right now. And instead of saying, "You are annoying me," they might say, "You are driving me up the wall," or "You are getting on my nerves." Another example is very boring. That lecture was very boring. I've noticed that some ESL teachers like to say that you should use dull instead of very boring. Well, dull and boring pretty much have the same meaning in this context, so a native speaker would just as likely say, "That lecture was very dull." However, even more likely, they would say, "That lecture was so boring. That lecture was mega boring. That lecture put me to sleep. I was bored to tears by that lecture. That lecture bored me to death." Or, "That lecture was like watching paint dry." Let's try one more example. Very expensive. Should you say costly instead of very expensive? Well, that's what I've been hearing. That's again amazing since costly is not a very common spoken English word. And when it is used, it's not used in regard to monetary cost, but to describe something that involves a lot of personal damage or loss, such as a costly mistake. So, do you want to sound more fluent, or do you want to sound weird? If you say, "Boy, that bag is costly," you will not sound more fluent. You will sound weird. So no, of course, there is nothing wrong with saying very expensive. That bag is very expensive. Or this watch is very expensive. But what about too expensive, or perhaps even overpriced? Just as likely. As well, you might use a common idiom and say, "This watch cost an arm and a leg." So what I'm talking about here is how people really talk. I've mentioned the top 3,000 most commonly used English words. It boggles the mind why anyone would say you should search for words that are not even in this list of most commonly used words so you can sound more fluent. That's not how it works. You see, sounding fluent isn't about having the largest vocabulary. It's about sounding natural, like a native speaker. And as I said, if you understand the 3,000 most common words in English, then you actually can understand 94%, if not more, of English conversation. And you'll be a functional beginner long before that. In fact, did you know that the first 300 common words make up 65% of all written material? And to get that remaining 10% becomes harder and harder as the words that comprise this list become less and less common, except in the most formal writing. Now, of course, there's much more to learning English than memorizing vocabulary, but I think you get my point. So if you see a YouTube video that tells you to avoid using a certain very common English word or to stop using a word that is used too much, the truth is, it's clickbait. It is not a reflection of how native speakers actually talk. It's a way to get you to view a video by shocking you into thinking you're making a big mistake while misrepresenting spoken English. It just makes it harder for you to learn English.